You're probably confused after reading the title of this video, so let me explain. If you don't already know, I like Starbucks. So then I had the dumb idea to make a beat using only Starbucks, but I thought that would be too easy cause I already made a song using mayonnaise a while back, and this is pretty much the same thing but with Starbucks. So this time, I'm gonna challenge myself by not using a microphone. Instead, I'm gonna build a microphone from scratch using Starbucks and then use that Starbucks microphone to record more Starbucks to make a beat. Also, this video is not sponsored. I just enjoy wasting my money on Starbucks, so please like and subscribe. Anyways, building a microphone might seem complex, but there's really only 3 parts to it. A diaphragm, which is a thin film that picks up vibrations, a copper coil called a voice coil, and a magnet. So think of sound as wiggly air. When a sound is made, that wiggly air hits the diaphragm, so the diaphragm vibrates. A copper coil is attached to that diaphragm, so when the diaphragm vibrates, the copper coil moves with it. Then shove a magnet inside of that copper coil and you get what's called electromagnetic induction. That just means it converts sound energy, which is wiggly air, into an electrical signal or AC current, which is an audio signal. Now there are several different types of microphones, and this is what is known as a dynamic microphone. It's the easiest type to build because it doesn't require an external power source. It's also the same type of microphone I use when I record instruments, so I'm hoping it'll work well on Starbucks. So I started by creating a mount to put the magnet on. I cut the top of this Starbucks cup off, leaving about the bottom inch. I'm gonna mount the magnet on the bottom and save the top for later. The bottom was too flimsy to support a magnet, so I filled it up with some epoxy to thicken it up. I bought this neodymium magnet with a screw coming out of it, so I can just screw it into the epoxy bottom to keep it from moving around. Then I got some extra smaller magnets and stacked them on top to make my magnet pull. Next, I cut the top of the Starbucks cup I saved and rolled it into a cylinder with a diameter a little larger than the magnet pole. I got some copper wire and wound it around that cylinder to make a voice coil. Now for the diaphragm, I decided to use one of those Starbucks sip caps. I cut a hole in the cap and glued on a thin sheet of plastic just to make sure the voice coil vibrates as much as possible. I could have glued the voice coil directly to the cap because it's already made from thin plastic, but the cap is awkwardly shaped and it would pick up vibrations in a weird pattern. By adding the thin plastic, I can make the diaphragm a circle, which will help pick up vibrations in a more consistent pattern. Then I glued the voice coil to the diaphragm, and that's pretty much it. Now technically these are all the parts I need to build a microphone, but microphones usually have these things called pole pieces. Apparently they extend the poles of the magnet to have north on the inside of the voice coil and south on the outside of the voice coil in a sort of cup shape. I don't know the exact science behind that, but it would cost a lot of money for a custom shaped magnet and I'm pretty broke. Instead, I bought this $20 sheet of iron from China. I'm hoping I can use this mechanism called ferromagnetism, which basically means I can turn this iron sheet into a foldable magnet. If I roll a piece into a cylinder, I should be able to mimic a ring magnet, which will serve as my pole pieces. I don't know if this will work well, but it won't hurt to try. Actually, that was a lie. It cost me $20 to try. Anyways, the iron sheet was a lot thicker than I thought, and I'm too broke to buy a metal bender, so I bent it to shape by rolling it on a pipe. Next, I got a small chunk of PVC pipe and hose clamped the iron sheet around it to maintain its shape. Then I glued the PVC pipe with the iron sheet to the magnet. It's super sketch, but it's cheaper than buying a custom shaped magnet. Then I glued some zip ties around the cup with the magnet to add more gluing surface area. Now to hold the 2 parts together, I glued the bottom with the magnet to the diaphragm lid. This is technically a microphone, but I can't plug it into my computer because there's just 2 wires coming out of it. To make it usable, I have to solder on an XLR input. I soldered the 2 leads for my voice coil to some speaker wire and then soldered the speaker wire to the XLR mount. Now to make it look nice, I put it all inside of another Starbucks cup. And that's pretty much it. I just built a sketchy version of a dynamic microphone out of Starbucks. So this is a microphone. It works, but it sounds terrible, which I kind of expected because it's made from Starbucks. The diaphragm's also a little big for a microphone, which gives it that muffled sound. It sounds like when you're at a party and you're listening to music in another room through the walls. Well, actually, I wouldn't know what that sounds like because I don't get invited to parties, but I assume it would sound like that. As you heard, my microphone had some background static. That's because it records at a lot quieter level compared to normal microphones. To get a decent level, I had to boost the volume, which consequently brought up the static. To fix that, I'm gonna add a step-up transformer. In basic terms, it's just more copper coils around an iron core, which will increase the voltage. The higher voltage will increase the gain and decrease the background static. Anyways, I can't really make a transformer from Starbucks unless I steal a blender or something, so the next best alternative is cheap Chinese parts. And to be fair, I didn't get the copper coil, magnet, speaker wire, plastic, or XLR mount from Starbucks either, so if I'm gonna cheat, I might as well cheat a lot. Alright, so I added a transformer, and while I was at it, I added an RC filter to boost some of the mid-high frequencies. An RC filter is just using a resistor and a capacitor to make a passive EQ, except I added another resistor to get more of a step-shaped low-shelf filter. Now, I'm not an engineering major, and I know almost nothing about circuits, so this might be a dumb way of adding EQ, but according to the graph, it should work, so I'm gonna stick with it. If you are an engineering major, make sure to roast me in the comments below. So this is the microphone with a transformer and RC filter. It looks even sketchier than before, like this will for sure put me on a TSA no-fly list, but at least it sounds a little bit better. And if I add some digital effects like EQ and better compression, it sounds like a microphone I'd actually buy. I mean, not a good one. Like, if I were to put a monetary value on this, I'd say it's worth about $5, which is sad because I spent $50 on Starbucks, $20 on capacitors, $10 on resistors, $10 on a transformer, $20 on pole pieces, $20 on magnets, $10 on copper wire, $5 on speaker cable, and $5 on an XLR mount. But that's not the point. The point is nobody else can say they have a Starbucks microphone, so I have flexing rights. After recording that, I realized there was a bit of a plosive issue. A plosive is just a mini burst of air we release from our mouths, especially when we pronounce the letter P. That mini burst of air is like the diaphragm's kink, so when the air hits it, it vibrates more than it should, which makes an ugly noise. So if I say PP, my Starbucks microphone would pick it up as PP. Usually people will put pop filters or foam windscreens on top of their microphones to prevent that. And my microphone's looking a little circumcised, so I guess I'll give it its cap back by making a Frappuccino lid pop filter. Pop filters are usually made from cloth, but I'm working with Starbucks, so I have some high quality Starbucks napkins. I took a napkin and glued it to the inside of a Frappuccino lid. Then I taped that to the top of the microphone, and that's literally it. Now, another unrelated problem I found was that the XLR mount was protruding out the bottom. That meant the microphone couldn't balance well when standing upright. So, to fix that, I got 2 more Frappuccino lids and glued them to the bottom to make a stand. Nice. Alright, now it's the fun part where I make a beat using Starbucks. I've never actually made a beat before, but I don't think it'll be too hard because I know some music theory and a little bit of audio production. I want to go for a TikTok song sort of vibe, so like pop music, but Gen Z bad quality pop music. The reason for that is because those types of songs use basic music theory and are easy to produce, which means less work for me. It's also because I'm on TikTok like 5 hours a day, so you should follow me at Nolan Yoshimoto. I'm gonna make this a lo-fi beat because when I think about Starbucks or coffee in general, I just get chill lo-fi vibes. Also, lo-fi is easy to produce with a crappy mic because it's more about ambience and less about music. Lo-fi is actually an abbreviation for the term low fidelity, which includes technical flaws such as distortion, hum, background noise, or limited frequency response. My microphone checks all those boxes, which makes it the perfect lo-fi mic. That pretty much means the crappier the recording quality, the better the lo-fi. Anyways, I'm gonna start with some chords. For the key, I'm gonna choose C major. If you don't know, C major is like the Starbucks white girl basic of music theory. I'm gonna use a 2-5-1 progression, which sounds like this. It's a common jazz progression, but also really popular on TikTok for some reason. Like, here are some songs that are based on that progression. There's literally thousands of songs. For the chord sound, I'm gonna go for an electric guitar-y synth sound. But you're probably wondering, how am I gonna get that sound from Starbucks? Well, this is probably not gonna make any sense, but hear me out. I'm gonna start by recording any sound with Starbucks. This is me slapping Starbucks. Now if I take that sample and shorten it to a split millisecond, you can't even hear it because it's so short, but if I loop that split millisecond, I get a constant tone. Now if I add some mixing effects like EQ, compression, and reverb, I get this. And I can use a similar process to get a cool sine wave bass sound and a sine wave synth. There's a complex reason why this works, which involves both music theory and physics. You can search up the overtone series and additive synthesis if you want to learn why this works, but I doubt it because it's pretty boring. Anyways, now that I have the chords and bass, this is what they sound like together. For the lead melody, I'm going to use a Starbucks straw as a double reed woodwind instrument. If you didn't already know, you can flatten a Starbucks straw and cut 2 sides off to make a point. Now when you blow it, you get an annoying goose sound, but it'll be good enough for a lead instrument. I just need to auto-tune it flat. And now I can use it as a sample and pitch shift it around to make a melody. This is what I came up with. Now that I have all the melodic aspects, I need to add some percussive elements to give a better sense of time. Or rather, lack of time. Lo-fi percussion is usually pretty basic, like just a kick, a snare, and a hi-hat, but they're played slightly at a time to give a drunk feel to it. For the kick, I can slam the Starbucks on my desk, pitch it down, and add some effects to get this. For the snare, I can flick a Starbucks cap, and add a ton of saturation so it sounds gross. Then add a lo-fi plugin to make it sound better. Now the hi-hat is a little harder to get because it's more of a metallic sound. I can't get that from a plastic Starbucks cup unless I buy one of those expensive metal travel mugs, but I'm too broke for that. An alternative I found is not fully Starbucks, but coffee related, so I'm gonna stick with it. I have this coffee maker with a hot plate at the bottom to keep brewed coffee warm. If you spill liquids on this hot plate, it instantly evaporates, which makes a nice sizzle sound. So if I get some Starbucks water and flick it onto the hot plate, I get this. So here's the core of the beat with the percussion. Now to top it off, I need some ambient noise. Like I said, lo-fi has lots of ambience, which fills the background and makes the song more lively. So to get that ambience, I headed to the back of my local Starbucks. And instead of recording little children like most creeps, I recorded ambient Starbucks noises. Obviously I had to be a little discreet because my microphone looks like a literal bomb, so I hid it in my backpack and put it on the floor. And that's pretty much it. I'll spend the next few days adding other sections, mixing, and kinda mastering. So it's actually been like 3 weeks because I procrastinate like usual, but here's the final beat, recording Starbucks with Starbucks. Welcome to Starbucks. What can I get started for you today? Yeah, I'll have a short blonde roast with 10 sugars, 3 pumps of vanilla syrup, and 8 pumps of hazelnut syrup. Jesus Christ. Can I get a name for that order? Damien? Alrighty, diabetes. Your total will be 69,420. So fun fact, speakers work the same way as microphones do. So if I do that entire microphone building process again, I can make a Starbucks speaker to play my Starbucks beat that I recorded with Starbucks.